Terry. 96.3 WHUR and HUR Voices, Sirius XM, Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. Your questions or comments toll free at 855-288-4876. Now, Insight.
We do welcome you back, everyone. I'm Olette Green, in for Harold Fisher, who is off tonight. A provocative picture of a mother breastfeeding her toddler son kicked off yet another debate over child rearing, this time attachment parenting. Tonight, we examine this parenting style, which supporters say does not mean your child has to be physically attached to mom all the time. Our guest tonight is Samantha Gray. She is the executive director of Attachment Parenting International. And as always, we invite our listeners to join the conversation. Give us a call right now at 202-319-7810. That's 202-319-7810, or you can call us toll-free at 1-855-288-4876. That's 1-855-288-4876. Samantha Gray, welcome to Insight. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, before we get into that discussion about the Time magazine cover, let's first define attachment parenting. What is it?
For our organization, Attachment Parenting International, attachment parenting is about promoting parenting practices that create strong, healthy, emotional bonds between children and their parents, and specifically fostering secure attachment in the child, which, according to research, is based in a secure primary attachment that child will use to grow and be able to have adult healthy relationships.
And the bottom line is this style of parenting promotes raising children who are highly developed, have a highly developed capacity for empathy and connection, right?
That's one of the things that we're trying to achieve. We're trying to raise our children with respect and with compassion and looking at their needs and trying to move away from kind of dismissive practices, belittling a child's needs and their requests, and going to what is it that that needs to be met. So
and all of this is done,
and they can move on.
And all of this is done, Samantha, by focusing on the nurturing connection that parents can have with their children.
Absolutely, and we try to give some suggested strategies for ways to nurture that connection. But there's a variety of ways to make that happen.
One of those is, of course, breastfeeding. And let's just address the Time magazine cover story. It was entitled, "Are You Mom Enough?" It's gotten a lot of attention. What do you say about that picture plastered on the cover of Time magazine of a mom breastfeeding her son? And for those folks who have not seen the magazine cover, the son is a toddler and the child is standing in a chair nursing. What's your comment on that?
Well, first of all, I think it kind of confuses people. You look at that and it's definitely set up and meant to be kind of a special piece. It's not how people breastfeed their babies or their toddlers anyway. So it's kind of unusual. It doesn't really represent attachment parenting, but it's an interesting discussion piece, and Time certainly knew what they were doing in order to get attention.
Well, yeah, of course.
I would have put the cover on that way, but
I mean, and the mom who was interviewed after the cover said that there were many other shots that were less provocative that could have been used, but of course, many magazines have to sell, and so therefore you put the most controversial shot on there. But it did spark a debate about breastfeeding in this country, and that's one of the tenets of attachment parenting. Talk about breastfeeding.
Well, Attachment Parenting International recognizes that breastfeeding definitely is what is normal and what is expected for infants to receive. That's what they expect. Now, that isn't always the case, and that isn't always what happens. And we certainly support bottle nursing, which is feeding your baby with a bottle in a nurturing, compassionate way, holding them, looking into their eyes, not propping them up with a bottle. And I think most people can get behind that. But we do recognize the great value in breastfeeding and hope that the really abysmal breastfeeding rates in this country will improve.
Yeah.
So we think it's important to stand behind that.
And that's one thing that's interesting to point out, too, Samantha. For those of you just joining in, we're talking about attachment parenting with the executive director of Attachment Parenting International, Samantha Gray. Breastfeeding is not something that we do in big numbers in this country. Is that correct?
No. In fact, we rank lowest, among many countries. The recent Save the Children report tells us that, and it's just really sad that, I think we could almost have just as much scandal showing a mom baby, nursing an infant on the cover of Time because we're just so not used to it. We have a long way to go. We've lost our instincts. That's one thing API is all about, is trying to help parents, mothers and fathers, reclaim their instincts, and among that really is breastfeeding.
All right. We're going to continue this discussion, and we invite our listeners to join in. Give us a call at 202-319-7810. We'll be back in just a moment.
I'm Steven Strasberg. I've got a few pitches, but I've also got my Toyota, and you can get hooked up with a Toyota too.
This summer, your Washington area Toyota dealer is the place to go for the best deal in MPG. Check out 5 Toyota models with a 40 combined MPG rating or higher. Save in May on new 2012 Corolla, Venza, or Avalon, all with 0% APR financing. And ask about great new low-payment leases on Camry and other high MPG models. Now's also the time to save on a Toyota SUV, like RAV4 and Highlander, both with $1,000 cash back from Toyota or 0% APR financing. Even Sienna vans have 0% APR. And there's great deals on Toyota trucks, too, like a new full-size 2012 Tundra now with 0% APR financing or $2,500 cash back from Toyota. Or go with the top resale value of Tacoma and get $500 cash back.
Toyota covers the bases, so go see your Toyota dealer today.
Offers end June 4th. Visit buyatoyota.com. EPA estimated MPG claim on all 2012 Prius models and Camry Hybrid. Actual mileage will vary. Not all buyers will qualify for special APR financing. See dealer for details.
Welcome back, everyone, to WHUR and HUR Voices on Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment on the Daily Drum, and joining me this hour is Samantha Gray, Executive Director of Attachment Parenting International. We continue our discussion as we try to clear up some of the myths and controversy surrounding this method or model of parenting, attachment parenting. I want to go to the phone lines now. We invite our listeners to join in the conversation at 202-319-7810. That's 319-7810. Or toll free at 855-288-4876. Again, that's 855-288-4876. First up is Frank calling in from Northwest D.C. Frank,
yes.
Turn your radio down. Good evening. Welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment?
My question is, she didn't quite answer about the Time magazine.
What do you want her to address?
Pardon?
What do you want Samantha Gray to address?
She didn't address completely what the question about the Time magazine. Did she feel it was okay for someone of that age to be breastfeeding? Of course, breastfeeding is something that every mother needs to do. It does strike a bond. However, when you get to be 3.5, 4 years old, that child begins to remember things. You remember your first birthday party. Remember those things. So my question to her is, does she still feel that it's okay to breastfeed 4 and even 5 years old?
Okay, thank you so much, Frank. Good point. All right, Samantha, why don't you address that?
Sure, I'm glad to. I absolutely do think it's okay for a 3-year-old to be breastfeeding or a 4-year-old. That is really between the mother and the child, and there is absolutely nothing negative, psychologically speaking, socially speaking, about that whatsoever. That there's really agreement on that. And in fact, you talk about remembering, actually it's kind of sad. They often, 3- and 4-year-olds, don't usually remember. Some rarely do. But they do remember that their needs were met and they were nurtured, and there really is no problem with that whatsoever. The world average age of breastfeeding is much, much higher than what we see in this country. And you are going to see, between maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 years old of breastfeeding. So it's completely natural. It's just And you would be surprised how many
when you
mothers
say
are breastfeeding their kids at those
Samantha,
ages.
when you say it's completely natural, it's so weird sounding to so many people because for many people it's unnatural to nurse a child who is 3.5, 4, and even older. It is something I think people think is sexual about breastfeeding a child, and certainly doing it in public outrages so many people when that is what the breasts were designed to do.
Well, and you just said it. That's what they're designed to do. And that doesn't mean that we don't recognize there's other use there, purpose, but that is what they're designed to do. And it's not unusual. I mean, if you look at our culture, 50 years ago, we almost completely forgot about breastfeeding. And thank goodness for the Leche League International coming along and helping us reclaim breastfeeding. So you can imagine if we thought breastfeeding a child at all was kind of odd and weird and we don't want to see it in public, yes, it's true, we're going to find it odd to breastfeed a 3-year-old. But let me say this about breastfeeding a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old. It is not the same as breastfeeding an infant. It doesn't happen all day long. It might be, before bedtime or a nap or, maybe the odd moment when the child falls down and they want some comforting. It's not a frequent thing. They do stop. They stop on their own.
And then one of the dangers is, in this discussion and in this controversy, is pitting mothers who nurse their babies against those mothers who don't nurse their babies.
Right.
That is a big danger zone for me because I think mothers do the best that they can in most cases, and we don't want to be doing that to women who are trying to raise their children.
I absolutely agree. And the mommy wars are really unfortunate. I will tell you, in attachment parenting support groups that happen around the world regularly, every month, there are many meetings. It's very important, and even the leaders who go through our training, we stress that there is no judgment. And we have moms of kind of every stripe coming in and meeting, coming to get their needs met, and they know walking out of there that they're going to get support and encouragement. And we are not about judging moms. In fact, I would love to see this country really raise up parents, not just mothers, but parents, and say, look, we're going to trust you, and we're not going to judge you.
Absolutely.
And we're going to recognize parenting for how important it is.
All right. Let's go to our next caller. I think it's Montina calling from Waldorf, Maryland. Good evening. What's your question or comment for Samantha Gray?
I have a comment. I am a nurse mother. He's nursing a 20-month-old child now. He's my third born. My other two were nursed, and she stated earlier, some kids kind of wean themselves early or they wean themselves off. A lot of my friends are, kind of challenging me as to when am I going to stop nursing my 20-month-old. And to me, like she said, the timing is really dependent on the relationship and the needs being met of the child. And I just wanted her to expound more about that because that's really where I am. I don't suppose he's nursed till he's 5 or 6. I think his needs will probably be met before that, but if they are not, I'm just not going to push him off. And
Montina, perfect setup to Samantha Gray talking about her organization, offering support for moms just like you. Samantha?
Yeah, that's really wonderful what you're doing, and it's really hard in our culture. We talk about, moms feeling bad for not nursing, but we actually almost have more prejudice against moms who are nursing and meeting the needs of the child, particularly around like a 20-month-old. But one of the things that our support organization would do for you is you would come in and you would get support for what you are doing, but also you would say, maybe could you give me some tips about how to, what we call is gentle weaning or child-led weaning. And we provide things like, you might want to, your child's busy and keep them active, and you may not want to sit down too much. We know as moms, when we sit down, they see us sitting there and they want to cuddle up and nurse. Teaching moms other ways to comfort and help the child wean gently. But we know that if you actually kind of push them away from wanting to nurse, that just makes them want to do that all the more. And so it's really respecting their needs, and when you know your child, you know how to read what they're looking for, what they really are asking for.
So Samantha, how can people get more information about your organization and solicit some support?
Absolutely. They can go to www.attachmentparenting.org. And at that site, we have not only information that can be read about each of the attachment parenting principles, but also a list of support groups and contact information.
Okay, let me stop you there because we have to take a break. Callers, we want you to hold on. Don't hang up. We're still taking your calls for another half hour. We're going to take a break and continue our discussion on Sirius XM Channel 141. Up next, on the WHUR side, the original Quiet Storm on 96.3 WHUR.